I'm going to start with a confession that many of us have lived through. You spot a cheap left-hand SG online, click add to cart, and a few weeks later you're staring at a neck that's all warps and a finish that peels after the first gig. The regret that follows is real, especially when you've spent hard-earned cash on something that should have been a simple, reliable workhorse. That's why I wanted to dig into a model that promises to skip that disappointment, the Gibson Tony Iommi SG Special in Vintage Cherry, left-hand. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. From the moment I unboxed the guitar, the first thing that hit me was the weight. Gibson's SG bodies are famously light, and this one lives up to that reputation without feeling flimsy. For a left-hander who's used to lugging around a Bolton Les Paul or a hefty Telecaster, the balance here is a subtle but welcome relief during long rehearsals. The vintage cherry finish, though not a flashy color, has that subdued patina you'd expect from a guitar that's meant to age gracefully on stage. It's the kind of look that doesn't scream novelty but still whispers authentic. Now, let's talk about the neck. Gibson cut the SG's neck profile a little thinner than a traditional set neck, which makes the upper frets more accessible, a detail that matters when you're trying to nail a high-E solo in the style of Black Sabbath's early days. I tried it with a 0.022-0.016 gauge set, and the feel was surprisingly comfortable for a left-hander who usually wrestles with a right-handed neck turned around. The fingerboard radius is a comfortable 12.5 inches, which means you can bend strings without the board feeling like it's fighting back. That's a practical strength you won't see on a budget copy that often compromises the neck joint to save a few dollars. The hardware is all Gibson standard, a Tunisiomart bridge, Grover tuners, and a pair of humbucking pickups tuned to Tony Iommi's signature tone. In real-world use, the bridge held its intonation after a full day of playing a mix of heavy riffs and clean chords. The Grovers stayed in tune through a 45-minute set that included some aggressive palm-muted chugging, a scenario where cheap tuners usually slip. The pickups deliver that warm, mid-focused growl that's perfect for classic rock and metal, but they're not so narrow that you can't dial in a bright clean tone for a more modern sound. I tried a clean arpeggio through a 412 cabinet, and the note separation was respectable, which shows the humbuckers aren't locked into just heavy distortion. One hidden trade-off you'll notice is the lack of a coil tap or push-pull pots. If you're looking for a single coil sparkle without swapping guitars, you'll have to add that functionality via external pedals or a separate pickup swap. That's a practical weakness for players who want a truly versatile palette from a single instrument. However, for someone whose primary focus is classic heavy rock tone, the straightforward wiring actually reduces noise and makes the signal chain simpler. The left-hand orientation is where this model truly shines. Gibson doesn't make many left-hand SGs, and the ones they do offer are often limited to standard finishes and basic hardware. This Tony Iommi Special adds a bit of flair with the vintage cherry and a signature model's attention to detail. If you're a left-hander who has been forced to play right-handed guitars with a reverse strap, you'll appreciate the natural feel of the body contours and the ergonomic heel cut that makes the lower bout sit comfortably against your thigh. That ergonomic nuance is something you rarely find on a cheap left-hand copy that might just be a mirrored right-handed body without the same contour considerations. Who should buy this? First, serious left-hand players who are looking for a solid, professional-grade SG without stepping into the realm of custom shops. If you gig regularly, need a reliable instrument that stays in tune, and want a tone that leans toward the classic metal sweet spot, this is a smart pick. It's also a good fit for collectors who want a Tony Iommi signature model without breaking the bank. The price point sits below many other Gibson signature guitars, making it an accessible entry into the brand's heritage line. Who should skip it? If you're a beginner on a shoestring budget, the Gibson price tag will likely be a stretch, especially when there are reliable entry-level left-hand options from brands like Squier or Epiphone that give you a decent starting point. Also, if you need a guitar that can switch from heavy humbucker tones to crisp single-coil sounds on the fly, you'll find the lack of coil tap a deal-breaker. Finally, players who prioritize modern, ultra-thin neck profiles or exotic tone woods may feel the SG's classic design is a bit dated for their taste. In terms of daily usability, the guitar plugs right into a standard amp and feels ready to go out of the case. The control layout is simple: volume, tone, and a three-way selector. That's simplicity.